Yo, King of the Pit Media, signing in. Bada bing, bada boom. This one goes out to the metalheads. This one goes out to the music fans. What I'm about to talk to you about is a record I listened to on the Reaction channel. I don't think it got recommended to me. I think it was just artwork I had seen reoccur over my time spent as a journeyman metalhead. And I thought, you know what, it's about time I banged this on. I didn't go into this expecting anything more than, a gritty, grey, traditional sounding death metal album, which isn't necessarily my cup of tea. Like traditional death metal, generally speaking, tends to bore me a little bit. So I didn't go into here with high hopes. Now, I received a completely different experience within the world of death metal than what I assumed I would have got, and it was incredibly pleasing. Prior to this discussion, I put this record on again just to pull some thoughts together, and what a fantastic expression of extreme music this project is. And what I'm about to say isn't necessarily going to reinvent the wheel, because I do know that this record does have a cult following, and rightfully so. It's not, an underrated record. But I'm asking you, where do you think this album places in the grand scheme of extreme music, death metal music? And where we're going to go with this is, I don't think this is strictly death metal, which some may disagree with. With that being said, this is the album I'm talking about, people. Cryptopsy, None So Vile. We got John the Baptist here on the front of the cover as he was beheaded in the biblical texts. I'm sure a lot of people would think that was Jesus Christ, so I'm just putting that out there. It's John the Baptist there, beheaded on the album cover. This is the second album by Cryptopsy, and I haven't listened to the first one. I believe it's entitled Blasphemy Made Flesh or something along the lines of that. Quite Morbid Angel-esque wording there. I haven't heard any Cryptopsy aside from this album. I've been recommended to do the debut as it features, is it Lord Worm, the individual who fronts the band on this record, does a fantastic job. We will go into details on that, but then leaves the band up until 2005. This record was put out in 1996, and first and foremost, what I want to say is this comes across to me as more of a grindcore record than a death metal record. Yes, some elements, some sections, some parts of the songs are more death metal driven, more rooted within the strict realm of death metal, but generally the intensity, the blasts, the speed, the brutality of the vocal performance hits me as more of a extreme punk influenced death metal record, as opposed to a more traditionally based heavy metal influenced form of death metal, which is something I don't necessarily enjoy that much. So I put it on and I'm blown away by the performance. I'm blown away by the production and how it gives justice to the intensity and the concentrated aggression of the onslaught of this soundscape I'm given for the next 32 minutes. And with that being said, 32 minutes, 8 songs, it doesn't get much better than that. That's what you need. I listened to is it Nasum? I believe it's pronounced Nasum, the grind band. They had about 30 songs on their album, spanning to like 50 minutes long. It's too much. It's way too much. It's boring. A band as intense as this, generally within the genre of death metal as a whole, in the realm of grind, in the realm of power violence, in the realm of hardcore, in the realm of black metal, in the realm of wherever we want to go with it, not only can I not structure my life around listening to a long form album like I could do when I was younger, but it's just too much of a pummeling if you want to concentrate on the concept and the branding of what is. If you root your sound in extremity, if you root it in abrasive and harsh sounds, and I know metalheads can say, I listen to this all day, it's not that harsh, I'm used to it, blah, blah, blah. Bruh, come on, I need a little bit of melody in my life from time to time, unfortunately, so I can't strictly listen to music like this if we're spanning an album over an hour. 40 minutes, 50 minutes, blah, 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 32 minutes, 8 songs is perfect. I think across the board, 8-song albums is the perfect amount of songs you need on that album. I don't even care how long the songs are. If you've got 8 songs on there, I think that's perfect. There's something magical. There's something esoteric, occult about the 8-track album, in my personal opinion. So this record sounds great. It sounds fresh, disregarding the year it was put out. It sounds technical, albeit I wouldn't coin it under tech death, and maybe that's because of my generation, right? I came across tech death. I got into music, extreme forms of music within the 2000s, and by this time the studio magic that was implemented on bands such as the Faceless and Obscura and the likes, it was a lot more polished, it was a lot more ethereal, it was a lot more technological, not strictly in the musicianship and the craft, but in the actual sound engineering and the polishing of the product. So I don't find at first glance the what I perceive as tech death within the music, and I know we can disagree on that. That's completely fine. But I look at it. I have a connection to tech death in the sense that it's actually above and beyond the performance of the music itself, which is, as far as a genre is concerned, it is incorrect, but that's my personal philosophy and my personal identification and perspective. Me, I think it's a death metal record, yeah. I think it's a grind record, yeah. And I think this is incredibly ahead of its time, The death metal bands of the 90s, yeah, they were sounding good, but this had taken a direction that seemed so much more mature, so much more influenced in particular pockets of sound that have me look back and feel like these lot jumped in a time machine, It's a fantastic sound. We did a video on the Devourment record, Molesting the Decapitated, and I feel that sound is so odd, for lack of a better term, in relation to when it was released. I feel the same way with this band. I would have loved to have been within the death metal circuit, within the extreme metal circuit when this band was initially released, to see the reaction and the discussion that was provoked by this project. So let's talk about the music. A lot of dissonance, but not to the degree where it's, nonsense like prog rock. It's audible, it's palatable, it's tasteful to the extent where the dissonance and the nonsensical riffs and the like come together and are structured to a degree where it makes some form of awkward musical sense, even though it shouldn't do. It should sound jarring. It should sound uncomfortable. But the transition from section to section is done so eloquently, so professionally, that you zip through the sections of this album in such comfort, albeit the intensity of it, that it all sounds incredibly cohesive. The drumming speaks for itself. The drumming's fantastic. High octane, some of the fastest drumming you're gonna hear. Arguably thrash-esque in a lot of spaces, and I think that is what influences me to, perceive this sound in more of a grindier state, as we know that the thrash metal sound derives from a punk influenced metal, the intensity, the sound, the dance floor filler element of the music is incredibly youthful, whereas the heavy metal and the grown man influenced components of bands may appeal to those who like to enjoy a beer and watch a band. The more falling apart at any moment, lesser composed, thrash infused, blasting beyond your capabilities performance is definitely in tune with the frequency of the youth, with the energetic, with the energized, with those who just want to get involved and to feel alive, and this band provokes that youthful energy, albeit in such a professional manner that it creates this quality duality of maturity in the music and that connection to that youthful frequency that may not exist in those whom, would rather listen to something a little more slower paced, something a little more composed, something a little more, less ahead of its time, This is a fantastic record. It's one of the best death metal albums I've ever listened to. Arguably, could it be the best death metal album I've listened to? As somebody who doesn't, reside in the death metal world and doesn't have a broad spectrum of, understanding within what is and what isn't, within death metal. At this moment in time, I could argue that this is one of the best. I would arguably say top 5, if not top 3 death metal albums I've ever listened to. I can't really think of anything at this moment in time that competes with this that we've checked out. That isn't like hardcore adjacent. That is actually just death metal. Very good. Very good. I would like you to tell me your comments in regards to this album, your experience with this album, what you think. Is this underrated? Is this overrated? Is this a great record? Is this an average record? Does this compete with the great metal bands that were happening around the time of the release of this album? Let me know. I'm signing out. Peace.